All right, let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking a massive psychological driver, the responsibility trait. You know, if you're the kind of person who feels this deep, almost physical need to follow through on a promise, you're absolutely going to love this. Or hey, maybe you work with someone who literally never drops the ball. Well, you're finally going to understand exactly how they tick.
So looking at the SwitchOn Strengths framework, it doesn't just, point out a basic habit. It actually maps out the deep-seated anatomy of a core strength so you can actively thrive. And for this responsibility trait, the anatomy is incredibly distinct.
To get the whole picture today, we're going to cover 5 main areas: the mindset of an owner, adding value and trust, the hidden burdens, contrasting profiles, and finally, finding the right balance. Let's get into it.
Section 1, the mindset of an owner. Internal ownership.
Okay, so think about this stark metaphor, the serious owner versus the disinterested renter. For you, if you have this trait, a commitment isn't just some annoying task to check off a list. No, it's a deeply personal promise. A renter, they might just do the bare minimum to scrape by, but an owner feels internal ownership. When you say you're going to do something, it shifts from an external obligation to a strict internal mandate. Breaking that promise doesn't just feel inconvenient, it actually feels like a failure of character, right?
You can count on me. That right there is the ultimate recurring truth of this trait. Honestly, you don't even need external pressure. You don't need micromanagement or, the threat of a looming deadline, because your own honor and integrity are doing all the driving. It's this completely self-sustaining engine. You take your commitments incredibly seriously, often way more seriously than the people around you even expect.
Because of that intense internal drive, people who operate as stewards perfectly embody words like dependable, duty-bound, and conscientious. You basically act as the ultimate executor. You end up carrying the mental load for things that others might just completely forget about, simply because you flat out refuse to let anything fall through the cracks.
Moving on to Section 2, adding value and trust, tangible team benefits.
And what the source framework calls the balcony, which by the way is the peak positive expression of this trait, you bring immense stability. When you're operating up in this balcony space, you create this incredibly powerful sense of psychological safety for your whole team. And why is that? Because everyone around you knows, without a doubt, that if a project is in your hands, it gets done, period. There is zero second guessing.
I create trust by doing exactly what I said I would do. In a world that is frankly full of vague promises and constantly shifting priorities, your consistency is your absolute best currency. You communicate with total clarity about what you're going to deliver, and you literally mean every single word of it. It's a real game changer for team dynamics.
All right, Section 3, the hidden burdens, shadows of the trait.
As we know, every bright light casts a shadow, right? So we really need to define what we call the basement, because your greatest strength can so easily morph into your heaviest burden. The basement is exactly what happens when this natural sense of responsibility just goes into absolute overdrive.
Because you naturally take ownership, you might start taking on way too much. You probably struggle to say no, and then you feel this immense, sometimes just crushing guilt when you can't deliver on everything. This silent stress builds up rapidly when you start absorbing commitments that rightfully belong to other people, which unfortunately leads to a pretty severe risk of burnout.
Your incredibly high standards can actually trap you in this vicious cycle of overcommitment. Navigating these blind spots means waking up to the fact that your internal pressure to fix things, to honor every single request, well, it creates a massive amount of silent stress. And the tricky part? It's stress that others might not even notice until you are just completely, utterly exhausted.
Okay, Section 4, contrasting profiles, how it stands out.
Context is everything, so let's do a quick rapid-fire contrast to see how this plays out. Notice the stark difference here. Responsibility says, I will make sure it gets done, while the activator trait says, let's start now. Activators are completely fueled by the thrill of beginning something new, but your energy, it is securely locked onto the finish line. You care about the completion, not just the exciting kickoff.
Next up, look at adaptability's desire to be flexible. Their motto is let's go with the flow. Now juxtapose that against your unyielding stance of honoring a promise. I gave my word. To you, going with the flow can honestly feel dangerously close to dropping the ball or abandoning your integrity.
And finally, we have ideation. While someone with high ideation is getting distracted by endless possibilities, constantly asking what else is possible, you remain securely anchored to reality. You know the current task sitting right in front of you simply must be completed first. Ideas are great, sure, but execution is what you actually value.
Which brings us to Section 5, finding the balance, managing the trait.
To function at your absolute best and stay out of that dark basement we talked about, you absolutely require a few key elements from your environment. You need clear expectations, you need the trust and the autonomy to follow through properly, but most importantly, you need realistic workloads to protect you from yourself. And, you need an environment that shows genuine appreciation for your rock-solid reliability, not just the end results you churn out.
It really requires a dual balancing act. You've got to balance your commitment with your actual capacity and balance your ownership with healthy boundaries. You have to recognize, and this is huge, that saying no is not a failure. It's not a lack of integrity. Actually, saying no is wisdom. It's what protects your ability to deliver on the things that truly matter.
Which leaves us with one deeply personal, kind of tough question to reflect on as we wrap up this explainer. Are you carrying responsibilities right now that aren't actually yours to carry? I want you to take a hard look at your plate today, reassess those boundaries, and remember, your unmatched reliability is a profound gift, but it's only a gift as long as you protect it. Thanks so much for diving into this with us, and we'll see you on the next explainer.